Our final panel today, and now we're jumping straight into the world of payments here, and who better to talk to than Mr. Payments himself, Vasilije Lekovic. How are you doing today, Vasilije?
How are you doing, Pierre? It's a pleasure being on this panel.
Great, it's nice to have you here, and nice to have you as well, Matthew, from iGaming. How are you doing?
Just sorting out my sound.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Sorted.
Yeah, there we go. Boom. How are you doing today, Matthew?
Very well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, it's really nice to have you guys with us here. And the topic of today is the future of payments. And for me, being kind of a layman in this subject, but still very interested in kind of, more on a philosophical level of where this is all heading with payments and the innovation that I've seen from a high level in the last few years. What does that mean in practice, and kind of what are the long-term implications, both in gaming and outside of gaming as well, just looking at the world in its entirety. So just as a beginning, I'd like just to have a short introduction of you both. Vasilije, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm a payment enthusiast that has been working in this industry, in the payments industry for I think almost a little bit less than 10 years now. I started from carrier billing, and then I moved into the bank payments with Trustly, where I've been leading the gaming vertical of Trustly for the last 4 years, in the company for more than 5 years. It's been a very exciting journey, and obviously I am specialized in gaming, and that is another passion of mine.
Great, thank you. And Matthew?
Great, so I'm from the operator side. I've been working in gambling since 2007, online gambling. I'm currently the COO at Hero Gaming. Payments has always been a passion of mine. In fact, in a previous role, I was head of payments at several companies. It's a very exciting area for me. It's one that offers so much innovation, so much new ways of interacting with society. It's a huge area to understand as well, always developing.
Absolutely, a massive area, and I mean the changes and innovations in payments affect the entire culture of the entire world and how we interact with our purchases and on a day-to-day basis. But I'd like to start off with just going back in time. So I opened my first account, I think around 2003 or something like that, with I think it was Party Poker or something. That was like back in the day, my first experience with with online payments. And back then there was no KYC, no checks. You deposited with your credit card, and then when you wanted to withdraw, it could take a week. Sometimes it could take longer time, and obviously since
Wild West then, right?
The Wild West days, yeah. and then we kind of saw the emerges into more KYC. Where is this money coming from? All of a sudden, that adds a lot more friction for the players, and then as a result of that, it feels like now we are kind of heading towards less friction again, kind of with this regulation in place. So I would like to start off by asking this, can we go through kind of the payments in gaming? What has been the past? What are we at the moment? And what can we expect in the future? Vasilije, feel free to go ahead first.
Yeah, I mean, I can share my experience in the industry. It's been very interesting since, like if we take Trustly as an example, our founders identified that in Sweden, in particular, there was no instant payout solutions, and for many years after that, and even to this date, a lot of operators they are not focusing on paying the money out instantly, but that the desire of the players to get that money as soon as possible, as soon as they win, has changed over the years. So companies like Trustly identified that and provided a solution. And then on the other hand, you have what you touched based upon a little bit, the KYC, the registration. I mean, the technology has been changing in general. Like there was a lot of technological innovation over the last 10 years, and the new users, they want instant gratification. They don't want to wait. And then the operators, both and the payment providers, identified that and tried to remove all those obstacles and to create a frictionless process. And then, obviously, the payment landscape of Europe is very diverse, and the user habits, Matt knows that better than me, are very different in Sweden than in another market in Europe. And then both operators and payment providers were trying to find ways to kind of make this experience better and adequate to those users. And the new innovative solutions, such as obviously Pay and Play by Trustly, came to light, but other initiatives as well. So technology kind of helped accelerate that innovation process, and both by the work of operators and payment providers.
Cool. And Matthew, but from your perspective, from an operator side, I mean, we were together at Betsson back in the day. There's a very different time back then. And from your perspective, how do you see payments, past, present, and future?
Absolutely. So yes, consumer demand has really led innovation in that sense. The payments landscape has gone through significant transformation, as Vasilije said, in recent years especially. When I started out, credit cards were still one of the main means of processing payments, and credit cards, they were good, they are good, and they're instant on the deposit side. However, they do have some disadvantages as well, such as chargeback fraud. They're slower on the payout side, and they don't meet today's demands. I mean, we've gone from that, to biometric payments today. We've got more instant solutions, something which the consumer craves as well. So payments have become faster over time on both the local and global scale, and they've also become easier and more convenient. For the future, I think, touching upon what Vasilije and Trustly do, open banking is going to add a new payment value to transactions by leveraging data. So I think that's a very interesting topic for us and way forward, let's say.
Yeah, so on that note, recently there's been talk about this new PSD2, and again, for me as a layman, I am trying to understand kind of better what this new EU directive means, and what it's there for, and how is this going to impact gaming specifically, but then also consumer behavior in general. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, first of all, what is PSD2, and how is this going to change the landscape? And Vasilije, go for it again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to go first, Matt, or
it's
shall
fine. I can go. It's fine.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So PSD2 is an abbreviation for the Payment Service Directive 2, which is a follow-up to the first Payment Service Directive. It was rolled out in 2018, and it's a European regulation for electronic payment services. What it essentially tries to solve is it makes payments more secure. It's there to foster innovation and more competition from entrants outside the traditional banking and financial institution sector. And it has enabled new projects such as open banking. Open banking could only be created or could only have value with the introduction of the payments of the PSD2. The payments value chain with PSD2 will be built more on data. So to give some examples, it will allow us to combat fraud better, to have more sophisticated financial planning. Consumers can choose to share data, certain data with the operator. So for example, in the gambling industry, new regulations, responsible gaming, anti-money laundering, they've come in a lot more in recent years, ever since online gaming casinos became subject persons. This kind of information can be shared at the click of a button by the consumer for us to understand things like affordability, whether the consumer is spending within their means. So it gives us a lot of data to work with and allow players, in our case, to play safely, to play within their means, and to make sure we're stopping and preventing money laundering and finance of crime.
And Vasilije, from Trustly's point of view, then how will this impact your organization, and what can you do with this technology to improve payments?
Matt pointed out some of the crucial advantages of PSD2. I would like to kind of add on that I think that PSD2 as a directive will also help create a level playing field between different payment methods across Europe. But more importantly, it will in my view, and I'm sure Matt agrees, is going to fuel innovation, because the traditionally two traditional banks will now have to become less traditional, or to allow the payment providers such as Trustly and other companies that will appear or are appearing to create services that will improve the user experience of the users. And as Matthew said, not only about payments, but also about other services. So making the payment providers more than just payment providers. And I strongly believe that's going to be the future of payments in general, that the payment provider is not just going to provide the means of moving money from one point to the other, but also do additional services like identification and some of the other services. But also one other benefit of the PSD2 will be that in my view, that the user behavior will be shifting or changing, and there will be new markets that were not traditionally bank payment ones, such as the UK, such as some other markets in Europe, where the users will see the benefits of this type of payment, where you don't have like bank payments that we offer, where you don't have the limitations the same as the cards, where the fraudulent behavior is minimized, where you can do customer authentication together with the payment. And I think that is supported or enabled by the PSD2, because now the banks are also improving the way how their banking infrastructure looks like, introducing new authentication methods. Like, for example, now in the UK, I like to come to that example a lot, because it shows a big difference. If you looked at that market from the product perspective, open banking product perspective, 6 months ago and now, it's a very different market. It's like they skipped like decades in a matter of couple of years, and now you can authenticate your transaction directly from the app with your fingerprint or your face, which is the real innovation. And then the more and more users we expect will be shifting towards this type of payment. And if you can make their life easier when they come to Hero Gaming's website, and they don't need to send you the passport copies or utility bills to prove their identity, that's going to make their user experience even better. Mm-hmm. So innovation, it's going to bring a lot of exciting things, I think, and innovation most of all.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Matthew.
I was just going to say I couldn't agree more. I think Sweden is a great case study, whereby in 10 years, they shifted from having card as their preferred online payment method to bank transfer, and there was a huge shift, like in preference.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels, am I right in saying that kind of credit cards, Visa, MasterCard is yesterday's news?
To some degree, yes.
To some degree. They will have to innovate as well.
Yeah, they will have to.
Yeah, and the point here is with PSD2 is that now you are on a level playing field with kind of these type of solutions. Is that correct?
Strong customer authentication is one of the big parts of the PSD2. That means that different payment methods will have to implement strong customer authentication. So what that means is that we already in bank payments we have had the two-factor authentication of the transaction, while some other payment methods did not have it like as strong as that. And now that is creating a level playing field, because now when you're paying with a card, you will have to do the, kind of, which is a regular part of the bank payment, which then kind of, removes that difference in or advantage that some of the other payment methods might have had in the past.
Interesting. So if we move on then, another thing that is a hot potato in the iGaming industry is obviously the constantly changing landscape of regulation. From a marketing perspective, from a player protection perspective, but then also payments. How is this affecting you guys, Vasilije? From a payments point of view, and then Matthew, obviously from the operating, how does it deal with this constantly fluid landscape? Like, what challenges is that presenting, and how are you meeting them? Vasilije,
well, I mean, Trustly is a regulated payment institution by the Swedish Financial Services Authority, and obviously we are following very closely the local regulation in every vertical that we operate in, and in every market we operate in. And I think you're right. Regulation is changing in different markets. It's changing in different ways, but I think that it all leads to trying to create more order. And maybe the operators would think, some operators, that it's too much order, or maybe that the rules are in some markets becoming too rigid and too difficult to follow. Obviously, that affects us as well, and we need to kind of adjust in order to fit the requirements that are also placed on the payment providers, not only on the operators, regardless of the fact that the operators are the ones regulated. But I think that in my personal opinion, I think that the more markets get regulated, the situation becomes more clear for how to operate in a market, and that at the end that would benefit all. Obviously, with a small asterisk there, that if you make it too difficult for the players in the market to operate, that's not going to be a good solution either for anyone. So I think that the right balance between the regulation and also looking at what is the situation in a market, and how the new regulation can benefit, that is something that will bring quality and value at the end.
Mm-hmm. Matthew, from an operator point of view, how are you tackling?
Right. So in a similar way, I think, so from a regulator point of view, the difficulty they have is keeping up with all the innovation. So that's, innovation happens so quickly that the regulator is having a hard time understanding how it works, even though it's got a lot of potential for consumers and businesses alike. So the regulator, in my opinion, needs to adapt quickly to meet these changes, because it's going to become the new norm. And it also needs to be balanced, as over-regulation is going to threaten said innovation. So far, from an operator point of view, we've had instances where regulation is outdated or not present with the times, and it has made it challenging at points to process using certain new technologies.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So I have a last question that I want to jump into. I'm excited for this because I like big forward thinking questions and thinking about the future and all these type of things. The last week I had a conversation with Calvin Ayre, who is very much into Bitcoin and the future of payments on the blockchain and the cryptocurrencies and these type of things. And he talked very visionary about the future of payments being kind of like very much into like macro payments, for example, which would be like you pay like a nickel for something like instantly, and how that would change the world. He said, for example, the problem that we have with social media, where you at the moment are the consumer because you are not paying for this product. That means that you are the product. But it's not like if we can implement like macro payments through the blockchain, for example, that would mean that every time you post something, you would pay this like macro transaction. But then you would also earn money back if you get a lot of traction on your post. So if you're an influencer and you have 1 million likes, you actually earn money back. Mm-hmm. So that was his kind of vision of the future, how payments will be affected by the blockchain. So I'd like to ask you guys, like, let's say now we travel forward in time to the year 2030. How does the payment landscape look like? What are the next revolutions? This is a very big question, I know that, but try your best to answer. Like, what has Trustly taken over the world, Trustly, Vasilije, at that point?
Definitely. we are planning in 2030. We are planning to conquer other planets as well. Because
they can do intergalactic payments.
Yeah, why not? Sky is not the limit anymore. But No, joking aside, I think that the payments landscape is going to be heavily affected by technology. And I think that like what happened in the last 10 years with payments, that's going to continue happening in terms of technology bringing innovation into payments. And I think that there will be a lot of kind of improvement in different markets that we see today as maybe underdeveloped in terms of payment methods. So where there is a lot of room for improvement and innovation, fueled by technology again. So there would be one kind of projection from my side, and the other one would be that it won't be sufficient, as I briefly mentioned before, it won't be sufficient that you just do payments. You will need to do more than just payments. I mean, we discussed this several times with Matt, this topic that, there is a payment provider or a payment solution that brings a new product to the market, and after a while, that product becomes something that is expected from the operators to use, such as, for example, pay and play. But then there will be more innovation, and these initiatives like PSD2, they are not similar. Initiatives are being taken in other parts of the world. Like, for example, you hear now in Brazil, and then you have the US market where obviously gaming is becoming popular, and innovation will come there as well, and other markets outside of Europe, but also the European market. So I think that the future looks bright and exciting.
That's for sure. Matthew, 1 minute to wrap it up.
Absolutely. I close off. Real-time payments will definitely become the norm, even for cross-border payments. If we look forward 10 years, I also think, Calvin was onto something. I think distributed ledger technology will underpin globally connected payments. It has the potential to change the payments landscape and dissolve barriers between domestic settlement systems, making payment instructions. The last point would be it will drive down cash exclusion, whereby potentially we have implants which can identify us, give people our credit score. So if you're an expat, you came to Malta, you need a bank account. Do you need to go to SCB or Swedbank several times to get that information? No, it's inbuilt. You have it all. You can choose to share it, and it just makes things.
I can't even imagine a future where you don't have to go to BOV and living in the 500 documents here in Malta. I mean, that is truly revolutionary.
Maybe I went too far with that one, but
guys, thank you so much for the panel today. Really, amazing, a big, huge topic. We can talk about this forever, but thank you guys for the insights today. Any final words?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you. We need to do this again.
Yes, anytime, Vasilije. Let's meet up for a virtual beer or something, or in person, anything. All right, take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.